Welcome back to the channel. My people, something is happening in Nigeria, and if you don't open your eyes, you will miss it. The Yoruba and the Fulani, two groups that never trusted each other, have suddenly become best friends. Today, they are singing the same chorus: restructuring, restructuring, restructuring. To the ordinary man, it may sound like fairness is finally coming, but let me tell you the truth. It is a trap. Yes, restructuring is now their last weapon against Biafra. Why do I say this? Because every time Nigeria is about to collapse, they bring out sweet word to deceive people. In 1967, they call it Aburi Accord. Ojukwu trusted it, but Gowon betrayed it. Millions of Biafrans die as a result. Today, they are using restructuring as the new Aburi Accord. Stay with me until the very end, because I will expose how Yoruba and Fulani are working hand in hand to cage the Igbo nation. I will show you the history, the lies, the broken promises, and why Biafra must never fall for restructuring. By the end of this video, you will see clearly that this so-called restructuring is nothing but a sugar-coated shame. Why Yoruba and Fulani suddenly became friends. For decades, Yoruba and Fulani politicians were never true friends. In fact, they clashed openly. During the June 12th election crisis, Yoruba felt betrayed by the North because Moshood Abiola was denied his victory. During debates over Sharia law, Yoruba opposed Fulani religious domination. Even in power sharing, Yoruba always complained that Fulani refused to let go of the presidency. But suddenly, in this season, they are united. Yoruba politicians like Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Northern Fulani allies are now smiling together, pushing one agenda: restructuring. Why this sudden love affair? The answer is simple: Biafra. They fear the rise of the Igbo nation. They see how Nnamdi Kanu's message has spread beyond Nigeria. They see how Biafrans in the diaspora are lobbying international governments, and they see how the agitation has refused to die. Instead of fighting each other, Yoruba and Fulani have decided to form a common front to stop Biafra. History shows that whenever the Igbo rise, the other groups forget their quarrels and unite against us. That is what is happening again today, and restructuring is the sweet song they are using to deceive both their people and Igbo. We must not fall for it. The sweet but dangerous promise of restructuring. Restructuring sounds attractive on the surface. They say each region will control its resources. They say power will return to the states. They say local governments will have more freedom. If you hear it for the first time, you may clap your hands, but look deeper. My brothers and sisters, who will design this restructuring? The same politicians who have lied for decades. The APC manifesto of 2014 clearly promised restructuring, and state police Yoruba leaders told their people support Buhari. He will bring through federalism. Fulani leaders smiled and agreed. But after they took power, Buhari laughed and threw away the manifesto for 8 good years. 8 good years. Restructuring was not mentioned again. Atiku Abubakar, another Fulani politician, also promised restructuring. During his campaign, he said, if I become president, I will restructure Nigeria within 6 months. Imagine. But when he lost, the same Fulani establishment laughed because they never wanted it in the first place. Even in the 2014 National Conference, set up by Jonathan, produced a strong report recommending restructuring. But as soon as Buhari entered office, he said the report belonged to the waste bin. So you see, restructuring is nothing but a trick They use it to calm tempers during elections, but once in power, they dump it. That is why Biafra must see through this last lie. The ghost of Aburi Accord. History is repeating itself in front of our eyes. In 1967, when Biafra demanded freedom, the Nigerian government pretend to offer a solution. They invite Ojukwu to Ghana for peace talks. That meeting produced the Aburi Accord. What did the accord say? It promised that every region in Nigeria will have autonomy. It promised that no region would dominate another. Ojukwu accepted it in good faith because he wanted peace, not war. But when Gowon returned to Lagos, the Yoruba Fulani elite whispered in his ear, if you implement Aburi, Nigeria will collapse. Igbo will rise too strong. Immediately, Gowon betrayed the agreement. That betrayal opened the gates of war. Millions of Biafrans, especially women and children, were starved to death. Aburi Accord became nothing but a symbol of treachery. Today, restructuring is the new Aburi Accord. They are packaging it as a fairness, but in reality, they have no plan to implement it. Just like 1967, they will sign it with one hand and betray with the other. Biafra must remember, Nigeria's leaders have no record of keeping promises. They deceive, they delay, and then they destroy. Restructuring is just the modern phase of Aburi betrayal. The fear of Biafra economy, power. Why are they so afraid of Biafra? The answer is not politics, it is economy. The Igbo man is naturally gifted in trade, industry, and creativity. Even under oppression, Igbo people dominate the markets, build businesses, and control technology. If Biafra becomes independent, the economy of Nigeria will collapse overnight. Imagine if Igbo oil, gas, seaports, and industry are controlled by a free Biafra. Nigeria would lose its major source of wealth. The Fulani North depend on oil revenue. The Yoruba West depend on Igbo trade in Lagos and across the Southwest. Without Igbo energy, their economies will shrink. This is why Yoruba and Fulani are desperate to block Biafra. They know that once Igbo resources are managed by Igbo hand, there will be no need to depend on Abuja. That freedom terrifies them. Even with all the oppression, look at the Igbo spirit. Aba, Onisha, and Inewi are hubs of innovation. Igbo youth abroad are excelling in technology, medicine, and business. If this same energy is channeled into a free Biafra, the nation will rise like Japan or Israel. Nigeria know this truth, and that is why they are using restructuring as a cage. It is not about fairness. It is about keeping Igbo wealth under their control. How Yoruba allies betray before. We must not forget history. During the Civil War, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, a Yoruba leader, pretended to be neutral. But when he saw that Igbo were strong, he sided with the Fulani North. He openly said, starvation is a legitimate weapon of war. That single policy starved millions of Biafran children to death. Awolowo also told Igbo leaders that if the East succeeded, the West will follow. But the moment Igbo declared Biafra, Awolowo betrayed us and stay with the North. This is the story of Yoruba allies' double-faced politics. Today, the same game is repeating. Yoruba politicians shout restructuring, restructuring to gain sympathy, but in the back room, they are negotiating oil blocks, contracts, and political appointments with Fulani elites. They are not fighting for fairness, they are fighting for their own pocket. The Igbo must never fall for Yoruba sweet talk again. Remember that the same Yoruba elite class kept quiet when Nnamdi Kanu was abducted. They only raised restructuring when it benefits them. The moment they get what they want, they will dump it again. This is why restructuring is a Yoruba Fulani conspiracy, not a true solution. The Fulani agenda behind restructuring. Fulani elites know their time is running out. For decades, they use the military, oil revenue, and political power to dominate Nigeria. But today, the world is watching. The killings by Fulani herdsmen and the kidnapping across highways, the bloodshed in Plateau, Benue, and Southern Kaduna, everything has exposed the Fulani agenda of conquest. They know they cannot rule forever, so they are searching for a new strategy. That strategy is restructuring. But don't be deceived. This restructuring is not designed to give justice. It is designed to preserve Fulani control in a new form. Think about it. If true restructuring happens, why would they still control the army? Why will oil blocks still remain in the hands of Fulani generals and their Yoruba allies? Why will security forces still answer to Abuja? The Fulani do not want to lose power. They only want to redesign it so that Biafra's voice is silenced. In their mind, restructuring is like repainting a rotten house. The walls may look new, but inside it is still decay. They want to use restructuring to say, look, Nigeria is being fixed, so Biafra has no reason to leave. But the truth is clear. Their restructuring is nothing but a trick to extend Fulani domination. Why Igbo must not be deceived again? My people, the greatest danger to Biafra is not just Fulani guns or Yoruba betrayal. The greatest danger is when Igbo themselves fall for lies. For over 60 years, we have been fed promises. They promised us a fair Nigeria, but instead, they gave us marginalization. They promised development, but they abandoned our roads, our airports, and our seaports. They promise inclusion, but they exclude us from power. Remember when they promised Igbo presidency from 1999 to 2023, every election cycle, they dangle it like a carrot. Yet, when the time came, they shut the door. Even when an Igbo man like Peter Obi rose with the people's support, the Yoruba Fulani Alliance united to block him. That is the reality. Now, they are promising restructuring. But tell me, what is the difference between this promise and the lies of Igbo presidency? Both are fake offers to keep Igbo quiet. Both are traps to delay Biafra. If we fall for restructuring today, in 10 years, they will come with another trick. Igbo must open their eyes. No promise from Nigeria is real. The only truth is Biafra. The only justice is freedom. The only guarantee is self-determination. International pressure and their fear. Another reason Yoruba and Fulani elites are rushing to restructure is because the world is watching closely. The international community has started asking difficult questions. Why is Nnamdi Kanu still in detention despite multiple court rulings? Why are peaceful protesters killed by soldiers? Why is there so much bloodshed by Fulani terrorists? Why the government look away? Groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and even the United Nations have released reports exposing Nigeria's crime against Biafra. Diaspora Biafrans in America, Europe, and Asia are lobbying government and lawmakers. The truth is spreading across the globe. Nigeria is feeling the heat. So, what is their plan? They want to use restructuring as a smokescreen. They want to tell the world, look, we are reforming Nigeria. No need to listen to Biafra. They want to present restructuring as a fake solution so international pressure can reduce. But here's the reality. No amount of restructuring can cover up genocide. No amount of sweet talk can erase the starvation of millions of Biafra during the war. No fake reforms The world is watching, yes, but it is our duty to shout louder, to expose their lies, and to show that restructuring is just another cover-up for injustice. The path to true freedom. Let us be clear. The future of Biafra will never come from Nigeria's promise. It will never come from Abuja conference. It will never come from Yoruba Fulani negotiation. True freedom comes from Biafra itself. The 2014 National Conference show us that even when recommendations are written down, they will still throw them away. The APC manifesto show us that even when promises are printed in black and white, they will ignore them. The article campaigns show us that even when they swear to restructure in 6 months, it is all empty talk. So, where does true freedom lie? It lies in the unity of the Igbo nation. It lies in standing firm for self-determination. It lies in saying no to fake restructuring and yes to Biafra. Biafra is not about politics. It is about survival. It is about making sure our children never face another genocide. It is about controlling our resources, building our industry, and creating a nation where justice is real. Every time they promise restructuring, remember the goals of Aburi. Remember Awolowo's betrayal. Remember the starvation of our people, and tell yourself, never again. My people, hear me clearly. Restructuring is their last weapon. It is their final card to keep us under Nigeria. Yoruba and Fulani have dropped their quarrels because they both fear one thing, Biafra. That is why they are united today. But we must not fall for it. We must not forget history. Remember the Aburi Accord. Betrayers, remember Awolowo's promise. Betray, remember Igbo presidency. Betray, now restructuring has come. Do not be deceived. The Yoruba Fulani alliance is like a snake changing its skin. It may look different, but it is the same snake. They want to chain us with promises while they keep the oil wells, the army, and the power in their hands. So, what we must do? First, we must unite Igbo youth, elders, leaders. This is not the time to be divided. Second, we must reject restructuring loudly. Let the world hear that Biafra wants freedom, not fake reforms. Third, we must support the call for the release of Nnamdi Kanu because his voice is the voice of truth that Nigeria fears most. Finally, I call on you, share this message everywhere. Let every Igbo man and woman hear it. Comment below. Do you believe restructuring will save Nigeria or it is another trap? Your voice matters. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share because the struggle continues until Biafra is free. Hashtag justice for Nnamdi Kanu.